This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
I want to start like I don't know what it is, a donation drive. Because a lot of people in Tucson, probably everywhere, at times, leave their dogs outside when they're at work.
Ugh.
Some people don't have a choice or whatever, circumstances, I guess. But so to purchase a bunch of kiddie pools, put them out front, put an ad somewhere on Facebook.
Let's 100%
Marketplace. Spend $100 on, because what are they, $5?
$5 each.
Okay, so it's maybe $200 on however many that is.
Come grab 40. A kiddie pool for your dog.
Yep. And
let's do that.
Worst that happens is someone grabs one that doesn't actually have a dog or need it. But fill it up before you go to work. Leave it out. They can drink from it. They can lay in it.
I think that's a great idea. Why don't we just keep that in on here and say that? Because we have a lot of Tucson listeners.
Well, sure, but we haven't done it yet. So that's the goal, and we'll re-announce.
We'll announce when
when we get there, which I think it's when we get there.
We'll announce when we actually do it. Yeah, it is very, very hot here, and my air conditioning is not working. So me and Jenna are at my house, and it is 85 in here right now. It's warm.
It is. It feels okay. We were just in the pool.
Yeah, we went in the pool so we'd cool off first. So it's bearable. There is cool air kind of whispering out of the vents. It is not coming out at full force. And I don't think it's as cold as usual. So the house is just, it was like, 104 or 5 today. I mean,
108.
108. So yeah. So it's just
been 108, 109, 110, 107, 108, 19,
next
107.
Week it's looking in the 110s.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to Death by Southwest, the podcast where each week I share a different grisly murder story unique to the American Southwest while my sister and co-host tries to piece together the clues and unravel the mystery behind each of these heinous crimes. I'm your host, Margot.
And I'm Jenna.
And today we are headed to the small town of Hondo, New Mexico, where a shocking family tragedy occurred, forever changing the lives of those involved. We'll delve into the life of Cody Posey, a young boy caught in a web of secrets and despair, and we'll uncover the haunting truths that led to the deadly event in 2004 that devastated this small Southwestern community. I'm trying to, in the teaser, that little teaser they just gave, I'm trying to disclose less. So I wrote it originally today.
What would you usually disclose?
Well, it would sound better and flow better if I could disclose who the murderer was or who was murdered or just more details. But we've had a few episodes that were heavily focused on the killer. And so you knew who it was right away. There was not a ton of suspense. And I think originally when we started doing it,
you wanted to keep the mystery.
Yeah, there was more mystery.
But certain
totally
murders, you have to kind of
we have to shift. Yeah.
Well, is this one of them? Because Cody Posey is what'd you say about him again? Or them? I don't know if it's a female.
Young boy caught in a web of secrets and despair.
I don't know yet if he's the murderer or the murderee.
There you go. And I'm not going to tell you. We'll move on to our sense of place because we did, I will share this. We did get one review that I thought was I just like the way that this woman said it. She said, on Sunday, we got a review from Grandma Ree. It's not spelled like grandma, but that's how you say it. Anyways, it's titled, Get to It Already. 1 star. Y'all seem nice and everything, but you get on my last nerve. Stop the prattle and tell the story already. And I mean, if I'm going to have somebody not like what we're doing, that's the feedback I want.
Prattle. It sounds like, I think about
praline.
I guess that's it. Praline. Yeah, candy.
Or candy brittle.
Brittle, yeah.
Brittle. Toffee brittle or something.
Yep.
Isn't that
I also think of Laguna Beach, but the next one, so-and-so Pratt.
Oh, Spencer.
That's
the hills.
Those are my mind went in 3 ways or 2 ways.
That is so fascinating.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I like that. For a bad review, that's a good one.
She's spot on.
Yeah, it's true. We do prattle
We're not going to
on.
be for everyone.
Totally.
And that's a perfect example.
Yep.
She likes us enough, and also
she wants us to shut up and get to the story. Yeah, we do. So we'll stop jibber jabbering for now, and we will get into our sense of place. And honestly, sense of place is going to be a quick one because this takes place in Hondo, New Mexico, which is an unincorporated community in Lincoln County, kind of in between Roswell, New Mexico, and White Sands in the southeastern area. It's located this meant nothing to me, so we'll see. It's located about 35 miles downstream from Ruidoso Downs, where the Rio Bonito and the Rio Ruidoso rivers join together to form the Rio Hondo. Hondo was originally called La Junta, which means the junction, because of the joining of the Rio Bonito and the Rio Ruidoso. Later, it was called Hondo, which means deep after the river. And there's only about 1,000 people that live in Hondo. So it's very small. And that's it. That's the majority that I have.
I have more questions.
Well, that's the majority I have on Hondo outside of the fact
What's the climate like in Hondo? What's the elevation?
Well, I do have the elevation is 5,200 feet.
So around kind of where, well, you had said something about how far it is from White Sands.
So here's Hondo.
Yeah.
Here's Roswell.
Yeah.
Here's Truth or Consequences. Albuquerque's up here.
Oh, I see White Sands.
Yeah, it's
right here where the
white sand is.
That's quite. That's not far. That's what, an hour maybe.
Probably
an hour. Southwest.
And then here's Las Cruces. So Mexico's right here. So it's southern New Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's pretty in the south.
It's
southeast.
It's northeast of White Sands, which I'm only saying that because I know where White Sands is.
And then here's Cloudcroft and Alamogordo, which are very, realistically, that's very close. That's the closest thing to.
Probably not even an hour from Hondo to White Sand.
Right. And so Cloudcroft and Alamogordo are the places that I want to talk a little bit more about because there's really no more information. If you look up Hondo, New Mexico, there's outside of the population being 1,081 people in 2007. That's the last census report, 2007. It's just ranch land. It's just open ranch land. There's almost nothing there. So I realized when I was researching this, I've driven through Hondo probably on my travels from Atlanta to Tucson and back years ago. And which reminded me of this place that is very close to Hondo. And I went through this place with Izzy, the bulldog, called Cloudcroft because I wanted to take I was like, oh, I'm making good time on my way to Tucson. I'm going to take a scenic route. And so I decided to go up through the mountains and ended up driving up these mountains in, I think it's the Lincoln National Forest. I'm driving with Izzy. It's so cold. Down on the ground, down in Hondo or wherever I was, Roswell, when I was driving through, it was, 60 degrees maybe. In Cloudcroft, the temperature dropped so severely, it was freezing cold, 30s.
Because you said you went up.
Up.
Well, that makes sense.
Cloudcroft is at 9,000 feet elevation. So, of course, yes, it was very cold. But I just wasn't expecting it. I kind of on the map looked and I was like, oh, this looks scenic. I'm going to take this scenic route through this forest preserve or whatever. And it ended up taking me, I wasn't looking at the elevation. I had no idea. It ended up taking me up this mountain. I lost cell phone service. It was freezing cold. And for a while, I'm driving around this mountain and the road is nobody can see me, but it's switchbacks, twisting, turning back and forth. It's kind of raining / snowing. Izzy has to go to the bathroom. I'm close to running out of gas. I have no cell phone service. And everything looked like a horror movie. Everywhere I looked out the window, I was like I'm going to be murdered. Somebody's going to run down the road with an axe and kill me. They didn't. And eventually I kind of like came out of this twisty mountain road. I'm still on the mountain. And I look to my left and there's this giant sign over, and behind this giant sign, there's this community that looks like it's German / 1950s. I don't know how to explain it. Or Swiss or Sweet. Like it looked like a mountain Alps town. But olden. And it
Olden?
Like old.
I get what you mean.
And there's this huge arching sign in front of the whole community. And the whole community
Does it say Cloudcroft?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wrote down that you should take a picture, get a picture and put that on.
Oh my God. It was
the Cloudcroft sign.
It was so cool. And I was like, I have to understand what this place is. So I stopped.
Do you have any pictures?
I probably do in my phone. And so I pulled off and we got gas there. I went into a little gas station. And part of the town, I know this is going to sound weird, but I swear to God, part of the town, they had like cardboard cutouts in front of their shops. I don't know how to possibly explain it. It was such a fascinating place to drive through and drive past, and I just have never stopped thinking about it.
It reminds me of, I know what, that's what I was going to say. I know what you mean by like cardboard or something cutouts. I've never been to Cloudcroft, but I imagined Tombstone of like that could be kind of like that.
Yeah. It's a very small town. It's a village in Otero County. The population in 2010 was 674 people. So it's very small. Yeah. And it is within the Lincoln National Forest. It's 120 years old. And on their website, they say that they combine the amenities of modern life with their heritage. It is in the Sacramento Mountains, and it's about 20 minutes from Alamogordo, which is like a regulation city-ish. It's the highest elevated incorporated town in the state of New Mexico, sitting in an elevation of 8,650 feet. They have a very unique climate due to the elevation, which makes it a popular destination for escaping summer heat. And it's not uncommon to have snowfall in the summer in Cloudcroft. Yeah. I know. They call it the gateway to White Sands. Yeah, I would love to go to Alamogordo or Cloudcroft. Both of them I found to be just super fascinating places. And I'm not doing them justice with this kind of sense of place. It's a little bit of a mishmash, but the last thing I want to cover before we get into the episode, because it's a great one, is I found 5 fascinating facts about New Mexico that actually I didn't know. New Mexico is known for being blank country, and it's something that I was drinking earlier.
Wine country?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't making it hard.
Well, that's interesting, but also I wouldn't assume that there's a place in southern Arizona that's considered wine country.
That's true. In Sonoyta is, yeah. New Mexico is considered wine country, and good wine. Apparently, Franciscan Garcia de Zuniga and a monk named Antonia de Arteaga started growing wine grapes along the Rio Grande around 1629. By the late 19th century, New Mexico was the wine growing region in the United States, producing over 1 million gallons each year. These days, nearly 50 wineries dot the landscape of New Mexico, and many of the wines are award winning.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll have to look into that. I mean, I love wine, so I'd love to look into that more. I think I've shared this before, but when you're dancing, Indiana is sticking her entire face in the water bowl right now, if you can hear that in the background. It is illegal to dance while wearing what in New Mexico? And it's something that you wear on your head.
A cowboy hat.
Close. It's a different type of hat.
A baseball cap.
More south of the border hat.
Sombrero. Yeah, you have shared that.
Yeah, I thought I did. And then New Mexico has more of this animal than people. It's a farm animal.
Cows or horses?
Yes, cows.
Okay.
More cows than people, with under 20 people per square mile and around 13,500 ranches covering 60% of the state. There is way more livestock in New Mexico than people.
I'd like to know, and I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Arizona, is that how does that rank up?
On the wine country thing.
No, the cows to people.
Interesting. Do you think Arizona has a lot of cows? I have no idea.
Well, I know Arizona has, like, there are a lot of cows.
And there's a lot of cows and ranches in Sonoyta.
There's a lot of cows in Arizona, period. I don't know if it matches up, but I'd like to know.
We're going to look it up. Okay. Well, I think all the other facts I've actually shared previously, because we've done several New Mexico ones. And while I feel like I didn't really hone in on how amazing Cloudcroft is, I'm going to post pictures, and I think people will then understand how weird and cool and beautiful it is. And like I said, Hondo, where our story today takes place, that's about all the information I could find, the population elevation and what it was originally called. So we're going to go with that.
Do with it what you will.
Do with it what you will, and let's get into the story. So today's story takes place in Hondo, New Mexico, as we discussed. And we are going to be talking about the Posey family with a focus on Cody Posey, who was born on October 9th, 1989, to parents Delbert Paul Posey and Carla Burst. And it's so weird because I read that and I thought, Delbert, we had another story, and I don't have it in my brain right now. We had another story with another person named Delbert.
Not Dilbert?
Delbert. And I remember thinking at the time, what a weird name.
What's his wife's name? Brenda Burst?
Carla.
Oh, it would have been cooler if it was Brenda.
It would have. But Delbert Paul Posey, he went by Paul, his middle name. He didn't go by Delbert. So that's how we're going to refer to him in this story, is as Paul.
Got it.
So Carla and Paul gave birth to Cody on October 9th, 1989. And when Cody was about 3 years old, they filed for divorce, which marked the start of a bitter custody battle that would drag on for 8 long years. During those 8 years, Cody's father ended up remarrying a woman named Sandy. Flash forward a little bit further, and in 1994, Cody's mom joined the Navy, which meant that a 4-year-old Cody, who had been living with his mom after they divorced for the past year, he would be sent back to live with his father and his father's second wife, Sandy. And Sandy took instantly to Cody. She loved him as if he were her own son. She threw him birthday parties. She hosted his friends at their house for play dates. She showered Cody with love day after day. She also did her best to protect Cody from Paul's heavy-handed abuse.
Physical abuse.
Physical, verbal, emotional. Sandy had said Paul would yank Cody out of bed, the top bunk. He would yank him off and slam him onto the floor. When Cody was just 7 years old, Sandy came home to find Paul beating Cody with a thick wooden board. She begged Paul to stop, which he eventually did. But the damage was done. Cody's body was littered with bruises. And when his mom, his biological mom, Carla, was on leave from the Navy and came to visit, it was impossible for her to miss the signs of abuse that she had hoped were no longer happening.
So it was happening even before she divorced. I imagine that was a part of what was the breakdown of the marriage.
Yeah, it definitely was. After she saw these bruises when she was on this visit, Cody was 4 years old, she called the police. She took him to the hospital. They took pictures. They did a hospital exam. But for some reason, no charges were ever filed. And eventually, Carla had to return to duty and go back to the Navy and leave Cody in Paul's dangerous hands at this point.
So not even forget about legal involvement. No child protective services.
Nobody got involved, and I honestly couldn't find why. That was it. It was just she went to the hospital, they took pictures, there was clear signs of abuse, and it went no further than that, and no explanation as to why.
Okay.
And as it turned out, unfortunately for Cody, Paul seemed to have an affinity for beating his son and love being abusive to his son more than he loved his second wife, Sandy, who was constantly trying to protect Cody. Because Paul quickly divorced Sandy and got her out of the way so that he could continue his abuse of Cody.
Because she was
kind of Cody's protector.
And she was highlighting you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely. So less than 2 years after divorcing Sandy, Cody was 9 years old at this point, Paul moved on to his third wife, a woman named Trione, who was 10 years Paul's senior. And Trione brought with her a daughter who was 1 year younger than Cody. And they kind of appeared initially to be one big, happy, blended family to an outsider. But for anyone who actually knew Cody, they knew that he was desperate to escape the abuse of his father and go back to living with his mother.
I don't think it was, you had said it was like clear to people. But
no, it was not clear to people.
Because like no, and I'm not shitting on the people around, the adults around him, the teachers, the daycare people, wherever he went. But also no one, maybe people noticed, but no one
reported anything.
Well, and perhaps they did.
And perhaps they did, but nothing was done. Right. Nothing was done. At this
somewhere point, it broke down.
It broke down. Nothing was done. So Cody's 9 when Paul marries Trione, and they all kind of are living together. Cody, Trione, his dad Paul, and Trione's daughter, who's 8 years old, Marilee. But Cody is very unhappy and desperate to go back to living with his mother. He wants to escape his father's abuse, which has been going on for years and years, actually, since he was an infant.
Since before you can remember.
Right. And luckily for Cody, his wish to go back with his mother was soon granted. His mother retired from the Navy when Cody was about 10 years old, and Paul promptly sent Cody back to live with her and her new husband, Russell, full time.
How did that happen? I wonder. He just
Cody
gave in?
Well, Cody was constantly asking and wanting to go back with his mom. She wanted him. They were in a custody dispute that was leaning in her favor. And so Paul gave in, and Cody was elated. He was so happy to be free of his dad. So Cody, his mom, and his stepdad were together for 3 blissful months. And the 3 set out on a road trip up to Washington State for a job. Russell apparently was going to be stationed up in Washington State, so they were going up there to check it out, find a place, prepare to move there probably. Sadly, their happy little road trip would quickly end in tragedy when they were involved in a horrific car accident. Their pickup truck flipped over and Cody's mother was thrown from the backseat of the car. And Cody, who had only suffered from minor injuries, he shimmied and escaped out of the flipped vehicle and ran to his mother's side. She was in critical condition, seemingly dying in the middle of this car crash. And Cody is sitting there with her, holding her and feeling incredibly guilty because he asked her to sit in the back seat so he could sit in the front seat.
Right, yeah, I was going to ask that.
When paramedics arrived, they had to actually pull a hysterical Cody from his mother's side. She was in critical condition, but Cody, who seemed fine, still also needed to be examined and taken to the hospital. So as they were rushing Cody, Russell, and Cody's mother, Carla, to the hospital, Cody repeatedly asked the paramedics, "Is my mom okay? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to live? Is she going to be okay?" And every single person assured him, "She's in the best care. She's going to be fine. We're taking care of her. She's going to be okay."
Don't miss what happens next in today's episode. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Oh, I'm surprised. So, like, she's in the best care, to me, is like an answer without answering. You're not lying to the kiddo. And maybe they did think she was going to be okay, or they just couldn't, at the moment, deal with the kids out, like, understandable emotional outbursts.
Right. Yeah, they were wrong. They were wrong.
Or they knew and they lied. Either which way, I get it.
Absolutely. Cody's mother died not long after reaching the hospital. And after finding out about his mother's death, Cody was rightfully so and understandably distraught. But his stepfather, Russell, comforted him, assured him that everything would be okay. I will take care of you. We will get through this together. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Unfortunately, Russell was also wrong. Because soon after the death of Cody's mother, Russell was informed by the courts that he had no legal right to guardianship over Cody, and that Cody would be sent back to live permanently with his father, Paul. Paul came to the church memorial service for Cody's mom with an officer to pick Cody up. And Cody was clearly and visibly terrified to be thrown back into the cruel clutches of his father. But he had no choice. And so he went back to live with his father, his father's third wife, Trione, and his stepsister, Marilee. So the car accident was July 13th, 2000. So we're going to flash forward slightly to 2001. Cody is now back living with his father's third wife, Trione, and her daughter, Marilee. And at this point, Sam Donaldson, who is a name that I didn't recognize right off the bat, but came to learn that he is an acclaimed journalist and ABC news anchor for many, many years. And if you saw his picture, I think you would absolutely recognize. Do you recognize the name?
No. So Sam Donaldson.
Yes, Sam Donaldson, he owned several ranches throughout New Mexico because that's where he was born and raised. So he owned 3 ranches. And in 2001, he needed a new ranch manager, a new ranch foreman. And he heard positive feedback from one of his, fellow ranch owner friends about a guy named Verlin Posey. He heard that he had great managerial skills and he was working at a neighboring ranch. So Sam reached out to Verlin to discuss a potential switch, like move from that ranch, come work at mine. Verlin contemplated the idea, but he ultimately opted to stay where he currently was. But he said, I'm going to tell my brother about this opportunity, my brother, Paul Posey. So Paul applied for the position. Donaldson interviewed him, liked him a lot, checked his references, and then hired him. Cody, Paul, Trione, and Marilee all moved to the Chavez Canyon Ranch in Hondo, New Mexico.
To manage Sam Donaldson's ranch.
Yes, to manage it. So Donaldson seemed very pleased with the Posey family and the work they were doing. He said Paul began to organize the herd. One of our problems was our cows were not on schedule. So Paul began to do the kind of maintenance that was necessary, fixing fences, checking the waters, replacing underground pumps, and looking after some of our wells. He did the things necessary to get the ranch back in good operation. According to Donaldson, he thought the Posey family was polite, respectful, and industrious. He said Trione was very hardworking. She did things for us that we didn't even ask her to do around our small compound. We lived across from the manager's house. So Sam Donaldson lived across from where the Posey family was. I don't think, from what I understand, not like a stone's throw, like they were a distance.
It was a ranch.
Right, exactly.
It could be an acre or two, a mile or two.
Exactly. So he said, Trione was always bright and bubbly. We really liked her. And as for Marilee, she was a sparkler. She was effervescent. The family would often come out as a family unit when we were in the barnyard or the horse corral, and Marilee was just fine.
And she was about 10 at this time?
Yeah, she was a year younger than Cody. So Cody was 10, almost 11, and she was a year younger. To outsiders like Donaldson, The Posey family seemed normal, even happy. Family photos displayed throughout their home on the ranch showed the story of a loving, blended family. But as we all know, family pictures often fail to reveal the dark secrets that may be lurking just under the surface. And if anyone had been willing to look a little bit closer, to peer beneath the surface, they would have been horrified with what they found. Cody's new life on the Donaldson Ranch was difficult, to say the least. His father expected Cody to take on the majority of the work, up before dawn, working till nightfall, sometimes without food or water, which his father used as a disciplinary tool when Cody wasn't performing the ranch work in a way that Paul found acceptable. He was also disciplined by being whipped, hit, dragged behind horses, and poked with cattle prods, which was often what Paul chose to wake Cody up with if Cody didn't wake on his own at the crack of dawn.
Oh, as he's 11, like an 11-year-old boy.
Yep.
Is being a natural, normal boy that can't wake up.
Yes. Furthermore, Cody's stepsister, Mary Lee, was instructed by Paul and Trione to tattle on Cody if she ever noticed him slacking off or not performing up to standards or not doing well at school. On the occasions that Mary Lee did fulfill this request and tattled on Cody, she was rewarded, and Cody was scolded. July 5th, 2004 would be the last day that Cody Posey's father would ever lay a hand on him again.
So Cody was 15?
14.
89. Okay, yeah, 14.
It began like so many other hot summer days on the Chavez Canyon Ranch. Cody was up at dawn, performing back-breaking work that his father scrutinized and chastised at every chance he got. Though no one knew it at the time, after years of constant, relentless, and brutal verbal and physical abuse, Cody had reached his breaking point. So when his father slapped him across the face that fateful July morning for not cleaning the horse corrals quickly enough, Cody decided it would be the last time that Paul would ever lay a hand on him. Following the slap, Cody marched over to the barn to retrieve a .38 caliber gun out of his stepsister's saddlebag that she kept there for shooting snakes. He replaced the snake shot with bullets and walked back to the house where his stepmother, Trione, was reading on the couch. I'm going to take a little side note here because I didn't know what a snake shot was. Do you?
Oh, no, I don't know what that is.
Or snake ammunition. Snake ammunition.
To kill a snake?
So I didn't know what that was. It refers to a specialized type of ammunition designed for use in firearms to deal with small, close-range pests or reptiles.
So it's an accurate shot.
It's a shell casing filled with multiple small lead or steel pellets, similar to those found in shotgun shells. They're typically smaller in size, and they're intended for short-range use.
Small targets.
Yeah, the spread of the shot is apparently limited, so it makes it effective
It'll kill
for like
a small being.
And not even kill it. The primary purpose is to deliver a pattern of small pellets to kind of deter or disrupt the small snake or rat or whatever.
Right, but let's be honest. It kills it.
It could kill it. Yeah, certainly.
Or what if it doesn't? What are you going to do with it, right?
Well, it gets it out of the way without causing excessive damage to the horse because it's used for like when you're on horseback. So you don't want any of that to blow back on the horse.
And or spook the horse. It's probably quieter. The horse. More quiet.
Yes, it's quieter. It's smaller.
But also think about that.
It could.
Even if it doesn't, it's a terrible, slow death. I know you don't want to hear that, but
I don't.
Let's be honest.
Probably it does.
Of course it does. It expels these teeny tiny pellets that stops it. Come on. I don't know that. I just know what I know about little little buns and
I didn't go that
little guns and bullets.
I didn't go
Think
that
about
deep.
It. If it's not killing it,
I know. But I like snakes.
That's fine. Also, if you come upon one that's going to harm you or bite you, you would probably want to kill it. But guess what I'd want to do? And I know
I wouldn't.
You can't. Oh, you'd let it bite you or your dog?
No, of course if it was going to bite the dog, I would kill it. if there was any possible way to deter it, scare it away,
There's
or
not.
remove it, that's what I would want to do.
I mean, sure, there's situations probably where it is, but
Yes, it's probably used to kill. Jen just gave me.
I'm just saying, like, honestly, I'm not saying people are thinking, let me deter it. I believe that's the thing.
For sure.
But
For
also,
sure.
what does it do? It just like heals from all those tiny pellets in its little body.
True. No, it's true. It's terrible. I didn't let my brain
Also,
go there.
I support it if
If you're saving the horse or yourself, of course.
you
must.
You're in the wild wilderness.
Wild, Wild West. That's right. So Cody went to the barn, got the .38 caliber out of his sister's saddlebag, removed the snake shots and replaced them with actual bullets, and walked back to the house where his stepmother, Trione, was reading quietly on the couch. He snuck up behind her, pointed the gun at the back of her head, and pulled the trigger twice, firing 2 bullets into her skull, killing her instantly.
He shot her first.
I'm
guessing he's going to shoot his father.
Well, he shot her first so that she wouldn't call the cops because she was in the house near the phone. Soon after, upon hearing the shots, Paul stormed into the house, followed closely behind by Mary Lee. Before Paul could say a word, without hesitation, Cody shot him straight in the head. Paul crumpled to the ground. Before Mary Lee could react to Paul's lifeless body right in front of her, Cody fired 2 bullets directly into her head, killing her instantly. While no one knows exactly what Cody was feeling in these moments following killing his entire family.
Or leading up to, I'd say.
Sure, of course. Well, certainly nobody knows that. While his actions following the murders indicate that he panicked a bit. He haphazardly tried to stage the bloody mess to look like a home invasion. He dragged each lifeless body across the house outside and loaded them into the bucket of a John Deere backhoe. He then attempted to bury them in a nearby plot of land, but was unable to break ground. So he searched for his next best option, and he found a nearby manure pile on the ranch, where he dumped the bodies into a shallow, literally shit-filled grave. He then returned to the house, not to clean up the blood that was beginning to congeal on the floor, but rather to break a window and leave a note, attempting to make it look like a break-in. He then changed his clothes, got in his father's personal truck, drove into town to buy a can of Sprite, and tossed the .38 caliber in the river on the way, and drove over to his friend's house, Leo and Gilbert Salcido, to eat, play basketball, and hang out. Leo and Gilbert's father later told the Associated Press that he had no idea what was going on. He had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. Cody stayed with them for 2 nights and seemed fine, good even. He was in better spirits than he usually was.
I bet.
2 days later, Sam Donaldson, the ranch owner, was trying to reach Paul. He had been trying to reach him for about a day. Sam had been out with his wife. His wife's birthday was on the 4th, and they had gone elsewhere in New Mexico to celebrate with her parents, picnic, all kinds of celebratory things. And then Sam was returning back to the ranch and wanted to get in touch with Paul to discuss ranch matters, and also just he hadn't heard from Paul.
To check in.
It was pretty unnormal. It was pretty abnormal. When he was still unable to get a hold of Paul later that day, after multiple attempts, he decided that he would drive over to the Posey home and just see what was going on. He assumed that he would find Paul inside. Maybe just the phone was unhooked or something, he was occupied. But that's, of course, not what he found. He walked into what looked like a scene from a horror movie with pools of congealed blood and drag marks throughout the entire home. Sam Donaldson walked through the home carefully, making sure not to touch or disturb anything, but wanted to see if anyone was there. Was anyone left in the home? He didn't find anyone, so he walked back out of the home and called the Sheriff Tom Sullivan, who quickly came and recalls what he saw upon entering the crime scene. Sheriff Tom Sullivan said, "I saw blood on the porch, blood in the kitchen, blood in the living room, blood smears everywhere, blood chunks and hair on the porch. It was a crime scene, and a violent crime scene." Sullivan's detectives quickly swarmed the ranch, investigating and collecting evidence well into the night hours, but they still had no bodies. They did find a broken window, and on top of a computer desk, they found an open notebook with a note written on it that read, "Sorry, coppers, needed the kid to do the dirty work." They didn't really know what that meant. As the morning arrived, with temperatures exceeding over 100 degrees, one of Sullivan's deputies noticed some backhoe tracks leading officers to a grim discovery. Sheriff Sullivan said, "My officer decided to follow the backhoe tracks, and they moved away from the house, down around some bluffs, into an area where there was a compost pile."
Okay, this whole time, thank you. I was thinking, manure makes my mind think of compost. Mm-hmm. Not always, or just farms, but manure, it can be a quintessential part of compost. And I was thinking, and it is just period. And I don't know about human bodies, but like when you said that, my mind literally went to compost. And then I'm all, Jenna, you're just trying to revamp your own compost. Don't put your own projections on this. I have been thinking that the whole fucking time.
Yeah. He dumped them in the manure pile, which is a compost pile.
Totally. And Absolutely. It could break down. It just didn't have long enough.
Well, it broke down way quicker than it would have if it wasn't
there. Oh, it
there.
will. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely,
compost breaks down quick, especially if you break down the outside things that are in the compost.
So the officer who came upon the compost pile noticed a lot of flies buzzing around one particular spot in the compost
Which is
pile.
Not a good sign, period. Forget about dead bodies. You don't want a ton of flies or any bugs.
And there was.
Yeah.
He said, "We went up there with a stick and just kind of moved some things around. We moved some dirt, some manure, and you could see the back of somebody's belt and a pair of Levi's and the tail end of a shirt." Eventually, the officer uncovered 3 bodies in varying stages of decomposition: Paul Posey, Trione, and Mary Lee. But no Cody. And that was the question on everyone's mind. Where was Cody?
At his friend's house.
Yeah, but the officers didn't know that.
What's going to happen to Cody? They're going to find him now.
About 2 days after the brutal murders and the discovery of the bodies, Cody's playtime with his friends came to an abrupt end when officers showed up at the Salcido residence. The officers immediately began questioning Cody, also posing questions to his friends, Gilbert and Leo, about Cody's whereabouts, how long he had been there, what they had been up to. Gilbert Salcido said, "We were up all night shooting fireworks. We were just having a blast all night. Just fun, non-stop." Leo Salcido said, "I've never seen that side of Cody. Really. I've never seen him so happy, so relaxed."
That's sad.
Eventually, Leo and Gilbert's dad, Faustino Salcido, and their uncle, Eli Salcido, became uncomfortable with the level of questioning that Cody was being subjected to. Eli Salcido, the kid's uncle, who was also a ranch hand who had worked on the Donaldson Ranch, said, quote, "That's when I went and started asking questions to the sheriff about why. What are they doing? Why doesn't he have a lawyer? What are they doing interrogating him without a lawyer? The officers just told me he's not being interrogated.
We're just asking questions."
Exactly. But shortly after, 2 investigators, 1 male and 1 female, took Cody to a safe house, which is apparently what they call a room for interviewing children, where the 2 officers, again, 1 male, 1 female, began questioning him again. Leo and Gilbert's dad, Faustino Salcido, was present because Cody didn't have anyone else to be present, and he couldn't be questioned alone as a minor. They also videotaped the entire conversation. Initially, Cody shares several versions of the fight that he had with his father about how to clean the horse corrals that led to him taking his father's truck and leaving the farm. He initially told the investigators that they had had a disagreement. His father had chucked the keys at him and Cody had just left. But that story shifted multiple times, eventually ending with Cody saying he got all mad and said if it wasn't illegal, he would knock my head off and roll it across the floor. Cody continued to deny knowing where his father was, where his family was, or what had happened to them. He claimed that he had seen them on July 5th. They had had a fight and he had left and everything was fine. But a little over an hour into the interview, Cody couldn't deny what he had done any longer. The deputy said, "Okay, now I'm sitting here and I'm watching you, Cody, and you got tears in your eyes and I need to know why. So what did you do, Cody?" Cody said, "I tried getting rid of him." The deputy said, "How?" Cody said, "Get him off this planet because it would be better here without him." And the deputy said, "So what did you do?" Cody said, "I shot him." Deputy said, "With what?" Cody said, "A .38 special." "Where did you shoot him?" Cody said, "In the head." After that, the story of how Cody killed his entire family came pouring out of him. He spared no details, but surprisingly remained pretty calm the entire time. The deputy asked, "What about your stepmother?" And Cody said, "I shot her too because she was mean. She hit me and stuff." The deputy said, "What about Mary Lee? What did you do to her?" And Cody said, "I shot her too so she wouldn't go tell her nothing." The deputy said, "Where'd you get the gun, Cody?" And Cody said, "Mary Lee had it in her saddlebag for shooting snakes."
And she was like 10 or 11 or 14 or 13.
She was 13.
Yeah.
Cody detailed how prior to initiating the murders, he meticulously removed the snake shot from the gun and replaced it with ammunition of a deadlier nature. But before he could say anything else, Faustino Salcido interjected and asked, "Should we have a lawyer present?
Yes.
Should you be asking these questions without a lawyer?" The investigator said, "It's up to Cody." But unfortunately, they already had everything they needed.
Yeah.
Cody had confessed, and it was all on videotape.
But he was still a minor. So, okay, so he was 15, right? Or
14.
14? So I'm guessing, and I don't know where he is now. I know you'll tell me or whatever you know.
I will.
I imagine that at 14, if he got a lawyer once, even though he confessed, I still think it would be important for him to get a lawyer to prove that he endured a lot of physical, emotional, mental abuse. And that's all that you've shared with me. I can only imagine there might be more.
There is.
And so at 14, if he was convicted as guilty or pled guilty and convicted, I imagine he went to a juvenile
Detention center.
Mental health, or maybe, yeah, just detention center, but I was going to say mental health facility.
Yes.
And then I don't know, once he turned 18, if he was found guilty. Also, it's terrible. No one should ever kill anyone. But like, I have compassion for this kid. So I believe he should.
I believe he will have more.
Have gone to a facility. Also, because who's going to look out for him, right? So like that.
Well,
might
his mom's dead.
Well,
his
right. His
father's
mom, his
dead.
stepmom, his stepsister. Not that she would look out for him, but his dad. I don't know about grandparents. So he should go to a facility.
You are hitting on all the things that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
You are nailing it. So as news of what happened at the Chavez Canyon Ranch spread throughout the small community of Hondo, New Mexico, most people were shocked. The sheriff called it a cold-blooded execution. The ranch owner, Sam Donaldson, said he couldn't understand how this could happen on his land to people that he thought he knew so well. But those who knew the evil that lurked just beneath the surface of the Posey family weren't all that surprised. Quickly, the conversations began shifting. Mentions of the cold-blooded murders quieted, and murmurs of the long-suffered abuse that Cody had endured began spreading like wildfire. Classmates recalled a time when Cody came to school with black eyes. Neighbors remembered a school meeting where his stepmother verbally abused him in front of the entire town. And then there were more specific accounts. Slim Bretan was a tough-as-nails cowhand that worked for Paul Posey for 8 months on the Donaldson Ranch. He told Dateline, quote, "In the West, you just don't talk about it. I mean, you just don't. It's just not something that you put around." But Slim wasn't blind, and he witnessed plenty of the abuse that Cody suffered at the hands of Paul, who Slim described as cruel and angry. He said, quote, "He would ride up to him and hit him, whack, right on the back with the rope, just right on the back. He would be out driving, pull up next to him, whack, right across the back." Slim said that he saw problems between Paul and Cody that included excessively harsh words and sometimes beatings, almost every day.
You don't want to miss what happens next in today's murder story, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors.
Slim said, "I never saw a hand laid on Cody in love. Never." Which is the saddest part of this entire story. Like that line, when I was researching that line to me, can you imagine as a 14-year-old kid, no one ever is hugging you, no one's ever patting you on the back, good job, hey, I'm here for, like, any physical interaction you have is just hateful and cruel.
Well, to me, that sucks to not get a pat on the back that you're great and you're doing well or you're okay. But you know what's worse is in the absence of that, nothingness would be better than what
certainly,
he
of course, endured.
received.
Sure. And Slim wasn't the only one who witnessed the cruelty that Cody endured over the years. He wasn't the only one by a long shot. Jim Forrester also spoke to Dateline. He remembers putting a new heater in for Cody's dad when Cody was just a baby, in diapers. He recalls that Paul ordered Cody to move out of the way. But being a baby, basically an infant, Cody had no understanding of what his dad wanted. Jim Forrester said, quote, "And all of a sudden, Paul just leapt across the room and whipped his belt off and grabbed that kid by the arm and just went to warping him down across the head and ears and face and neck and back. The kid was screaming bloody murder as he was being whipped by this big, wide cowboy belt." And then there was Elvira Lerma, whose Spanish-speaking husband worked for Cody's father, Paul. And since Paul spoke no Spanish and Elvira's husband spoke no English, she was the translator. She was with them a lot, translating between the two. And she said, "I remember Cody pulled up his sleeve and he had burn marks from cigarettes. Paul was violent when he would get mad." At one point, Elvira told her husband something that now haunts her. She had told her husband, quote, "I feel that something's going to happen to that family. Either Cody's going to kill Paul or Paul's going to kill Cody." Little did she know she was right.
Well, much did she know.
Yeah, much
she
that's
did.
true.
She
yeah.
knew.
Much did she know.
She had an intuitive sense. But of course, that's really hard to listen to, right?
Of course.
She knew. She just didn't know she fully knew.
And as Cody's story of abuse unfolded, it became clear that the final straw may have actually occurred the night before that slap on the face that he got from his dad. During Cody's interrogation and confession, the male officer left the room for a period of time, and Cody was left alone with the female officer. I don't know if it's that he felt more comfortable, that he felt whatever he was feeling, he opened up and he offered up way more information and context about the events that led up to these murders.
Why do you think that is? If you had to guess, I know you don't know. You only know what
I would
you know.
assume his father, his whole entire life since he was literally in diapers, was abusive, beating the shit out of him, that he probably feels more comfortable with women because he had a good relationship with his mom than he does men. That would be my initial assumption.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's a good guess.
I don't know.
Assume something of the sort.
So he opened up to this female officer or investigator. And according to Cody, the night before the murders took place, Paul called Cody into his and Trion's bedroom. As Cody entered the room, he noticed Trion laying in the bed under the covers, and he noticed his father holding a butane torch and a metal branding iron. Cody's father instructed Cody to get into the bed and have sex with his stepmother right then and right there. Cody refused. So his father torched the end of the branding iron until it was glowing red, and then poked Cody repeatedly with the searing hot iron, hoping the excruciating pain would convince Cody to have sex with his stepmother. But Cody was steadfast and continued to refuse. So Trion decided to step in. She pulled back the covers and revealed that she was completely naked. She sidled down to the end of the bed and pulled Cody towards her chest. Cody struggled, which his father noticed, disliked, and decided to stick him with the piping hot branding iron again and again as Cody continued to try and free himself from Trion's grasp.
I have a pause and a question.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, and I'm guessing you don't know. From what you've shared, Trion wasn't trying to have sexual intercourse with her stepson. I think maybe she was.
I think she was.
Oh, you think she was like, I thought, so how you told that and how my brain read it was she's also under the thumb, essentially, to put it lightly, of her. Okay, you know more. So, okay.
Well, no, I think that that's a really important point that you bring up because you're right. I didn't explain.
Well, do you know the answer to what I'm asking?
Yeah, I didn't explain Trion and Paul's relationship. Trion was as much of an abuser as Paul was.
Okay, well, that's important.
It is important. You're absolutely
leave
right.
that in.
Absolutely, it was.
There it is.
That is important.
No more questions from
She
me.
was very verbally abusive to Cody. And she,
I'm not shitting on you.
That's
But
okay.
The first time when you said earlier that he shot her first, when she was reading cozily on the couch, that's my word.
Yeah.
Because I pictured her that way.
Yep.
It's sunny out. She's under a light blanket.
Yep.
You had said like, so because she would have
Called the
voiced
cops.
something, right? But and maybe it was that, but also. She was an abuser as well.
Absolutely.
Or complicit.
She was complicit.
Yeah.
I don't think that, from what I understand, she wasn't as physically abusive, not even close, as Paul was. But she allowed it to happen. She saw it happen. She didn't try and stop it as Paul's second wife, Sandy, was always trying to stop it, was trying to protect Cody. Trion was kind of standing, the way I imagined it was like she's standing there behind him like, yeah. Like she was on board with it. So she very well may have been under Paul's thumb, but she, from everything that I understand, she was not at all trying to fight it. She was complicit.
Which could be she was completely I keep using
under
that word.
his.
No, I was gonna say she's completely complicit on her own being because she's a fucked up person and whatever. And or she's under his thumb and became completely complicit because she's looking out for her own self.
Absolutely.
Either which way, it doesn't matter.
Either way, she wasn't
story.
Right. She wasn't protecting Cody in any which way. That's for sure. That is the one thing I do know for sure. So as she is pulling Cody towards her breasts, completely nude, and Cody's dad is sticking him with this blindingly hot branding iron. The only way that Cody saw that he could get free was to bite her, and he did. He bit her. And he ran. He ran away and stayed away for hours, only returning at dawn to take care of his chores, which ended up being hours before he murdered his entire family.
When you first said she pulled him to her bosom, her breasts.
Bosom is so much nicer, isn't it?
Well, because that's where my head was at. Like she was just like laying there like a victim. And she was like, come here, I'm going to protect you, but I don't know what to do.
Absolutely no.
Okay. I don't know if listeners would have that thought, but initially that was my thought.
And that makes sense because his previous stepmom was like that, would have done that, would have lovingly been like, let me protect you. Trione was not.
What happened to Cody?
Not.
Tell me.
I'm going to tell you. To find out what happens to Cody, tune in next week for part 2 of the Posey family murders. Unless you are part of our Patreon family, and in that case, we are releasing part 1 and part 2 today. So if you're dying to find out what happens and you want to know more and you can't wait until next week, you can head over to our Patreon to hear the full part 1 and part 2. Mind you, next week we will include some type of new intro for the part 2, and that will not be on Patreon yet. So there'll be a new intro for everyone next week when part 2 comes out. But if you are interested in just hearing the end of the story right now, that is available on our Patreon. And since Jenna isn't here, I will say her famous lines: hug your loved ones, and good night and good luck. And we love and appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so, so much for listening. Okay, bye.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, good night and good luck.